Donald Trump and others in his regime are already trying to throw JD Vance under the bus for the deal with Iran. You have leaks going out to various media outlets right now that Marco Rubio, Hegseth, and others were very much against the deal with Iran. But ultimately, it was J.D. Vance, and they also say Jared Kushner and Witkoff, but this was being led by J.D. Vance, they said, who ultimately decided to do this deal with Iran. And now J.D. Vance is going to be the person apparently going to Geneva on Friday to sign in person in Geneva with Iran's parliament leader, MB Ghalibaf, to do a media appearance, if you will. And now all you're hearing leak after leak from the Trump regime is that J.D. Vance was the architect of this. Don't blame us for this deal. It's all on J.D. Vance. Now, you may recall, it was actually several weeks ago when Donald Trump was having a press conference in the Oval Office, and he specifically said, if this doesn't go the way I say it's going to go, if we don't do regime change, if we aren't able to completely, whatever Trump was saying, obliterate all of Iran and destroy their ballistic missiles and take control and put our proxies in, it's all going to be J.D. Vance's fault. He actually said that. And now you have people like Lindsey Graham and other MAGA neocon war hawks saying, it's J.D. Vance is the architect. Let's just see what J.D. Vance is going to tell us. So here's what Lindsey Graham and other kind of MAGA Trumpers are now saying. I'm pleased to hear the memorandum of understanding with Iran to allow the Strait of Hormuz to open has been agreed to. I will be watching closely the ensuing negotiations regarding Iran's nuclear program and other matters. I'm somewhat concerned that Iran's view of the agreement seems different than what the American negotiating team is claiming. Under our law, any nuclear deal with Iran will be sent to Congress for review and a vote. I look forward to reviewing the final product, and I believe it is imperative that the architect of the deal, Vice President Vance and his negotiating partners, be part of the process in presenting the final deal to Congress. Congratulations to all in getting us to this point. Time will tell. And let's be very clear. That is a threat right there. That Graham and these other neocons will be working with Netanyahu and others in Netanyahu's regime to try to undermine this deal. Now, I also find it fascinating that people like Lindsey Graham and other MAGA Republicans who refuse to pass a War Powers Resolution Act to actually assert Congress's authority over this war to begin with and to ensure that Donald Trump cannot continue engaging in this unlawful and catastrophic war, are now saying, hey, JD, we're going to make you testify in front of Congress and justify the deal that you did for peace. We'll give you unfettered permission structures to engage in genocidal warfare. But when it comes to the peace side, that's when the neocons are like, we want you to show up and speak to us. Now, we knew a lot of this was going on behind the scenes as well, in that Netanyahu was leaking to Israeli press, and we also learned about it from U.S. press, that Israel blamed J.D. Vance for providing what Israel said was classified information to Turkey's leader Erdogan about the Israeli plan to work with the United States to arm the Kurds to invade Iran. And Netanyahu basically accused Vance of treason, leaking classified information early on in the war to Erdogan. Erdogan then called Donald Trump and said, you can't arm the Kurds because Turkey said we don't want them near our border, so we don't have them. We don't want you to arm them and allow them to invade Iran. And then we've also seen numerous leaks where it appeared that JD Vance, or JD Vance's chief of staff, who, by the way, suddenly resigned at the end of last week, appeared to be the source of it. A New York Times story that talked about how JD Vance was the only person in the cabinet room who was warning Donald Trump not to do this catastrophic war. There was an article in The Atlantic, which basically seemed like it was written by JD Vance, saying that he doesn't support the war, and that people like Hegseth and Rubio and others were giving Donald Trump incorrect and false information about this war from the outset. But it seems that the knives are out, if you will, for JD Vance in the regime, and they're all kind of circling and saying if anything goes wrong, or we're going to make it go wrong, and then blame it on JD Vance. And so JD Vance was trotted out there to do numerous media appearances to try to justify this deal. And the first thing he wanted everybody to know, as you know, they're all out to get him. And I think this is, JD Vance also, I think, kind of sending a warning shot to those people also. JD Vance is like, we all know how healthy Donald Trump is, right? Like, Trump is so healthy right now. Wink, wink, wink. And again, I view what JD Vance is saying here as signaling to others, like, we all know that I may have to step in and be the president soon. Watch what he says here. Play this clip.
But, my sense of the president's health is that it's off the charts good. His focus, his energy, his constant grinding. I mean, the presidency is a crazy job. You're constantly have,
And then JD Vance tries to explain that actually, he says, World War II was resolved in a very similar negotiation as the way I negotiated this deal with Iran. We all know how World War II was resolved, right? Through a similar negotiation. I genuinely don't know what that's not how World War II went. It's not how World War II ended, but this is what JD Vance said here. Let's play this clip right here.
If you go back to World War II, if you go back to World War I, if you go back to every major conflict in human history, they all end with some kind of negotiation.
And to remind you, this was from a few weeks back or so when Donald Trump blamed JD Vance. If anything would go wrong with the war, he said it would be JD Vance's fault. Let's play this clip.
He's working on the deal, right? How's that moving? Is it okay? The big deal? You see it happening? So if it doesn't happen, I'm blaming JD Vance. If it does happen, I'm taking full credit. No, I think it'll be, I think it has to happen. I think they're desperate.
Before continuing, one quick PSA for the Meidas Mighty when it comes to Medicare. Most Medicare agents push Medicare Advantage plans even when they're not right for you because they make more money doing it. That's why we strongly recommend you do what thousands in our audience have already done. Speak with Chapter, please. They don't just share the amazing benefits of Medicare Advantage. They explain the pros and cons of all your Medicare options. Original Medicare, Medicare Supplement, Medicare Advantage, and Part D. Chapter supports you in comparing every plan against your specific healthcare needs because they want to ensure you have the best coverage for you. One Chapter member, Jill, said her advisor presented options she didn't even see on the Medicare.gov website. And in many cases, Chapter saves people over $1,100 a year by getting them on the right plan. So if you're on Medicare or will be soon, dial 82 Medicare and get honest advice from Chapter. That's 82 Medicare. It's free and quick. They can review your options in under 20 minutes. If you're on the right plan already, they'll tell you. If you're not, they can help you save thousands the way they have with thousands of members of the Meidas Mighty. Now, in terms of JD Vance also being thrown under the bus, there have been numerous leaks within the White House, which may be coming from Hegseth, may be coming from Rubio supporters. And this is what the Daily Mail published in the past week or so. JD Vance is considering abandoning his run for the presidency in 2028. JD Vance, now the lone dove in Donald Trump's cabinet after Tulsi Gabbard's resignation, has been left more isolated than ever and is even considering abandoning a run for the presidency in 2028. Multiple sources tell the Daily Mail. Also, there were numerous sources that were also telling media outlets that Donald Trump would constantly mock JD Vance for taking lots of vacations. They would mock JD Vance for dropping the Heisman Trophy when the or the college football championship trophy when the winning team visited the White House. They would talk about how Trump would mock all of the vacations JD Vance would take, and that Susie Wiles would criticize JD Vance for all of his social media habits. They didn't like his social media posts, and this was a leak to the New York Times, as well as the others in the Trump regime are now trying to undermine JD Vance. Trump privately questions whether JD Vance has what it takes to become the Republican standard bearer after him, New York Times reports. He frequently asks aides and allies for their opinion on Vance's potential, treating the issue as unresolved rather than assuming Vance is the obvious successor. Well, if you want to run JD Vance versus Hunter Biden in the latest TPSI official poll, Hunter Biden would lead JD Vance in a hypothetical matchup by about 4.3%. Hunter Biden would beat JD Vance there. I want to share this with you as well. You'll recall that when JD Vance was in Pakistan for the original negotiation that took place that didn't result in a deal with Iran, JD Vance was saying that the Iranians didn't understand the negotiating terms and that we never promised that Lebanon would be part of the ceasefire, which is fascinating because Iran always made it clear that Lebanon would be part of the ceasefire. And indeed, the agreement right now that was agreed to was Lebanon was part of the ceasefire. And so it basically seems that, so this was from April 8th, 2026. Here we are, June 14th is when the deal was announced. Today's June 15th, but saying basically the terms that Iran put forward on April 8th heading into the Pakistan meeting is now ultimately what the U.S. agreed to. Here's what JD Vance said on April 8th. Play this clip.
First of all, I actually think, and there's a lot of bad faith negotiation and a lot of bad faith, propaganda going on. I think this comes from a legitimate misunderstanding. I think the Iranians thought that the ceasefire included Lebanon, and it just didn't. We never made that promise. We never indicated that was going to be the case. What we said is that the ceasefire would be focused on Iran, and the ceasefire would be focused on America's allies, both Israel and the Gulf Arab states.
And then JD Vance's message to the American people. He had to call Fox yesterday. He's under fire now from Netanyahu, the neocon warhawks, all of the, the people in Israel hate him now, and look, ultimately doing this deal, while, I think was the right call. I think we should never, let me be clear, we should never have been in this unlawful and catastrophic war in the first place. This was the only option, at this point. But it's interesting that now everybody has their knives out for Vance. And now Vance basically says, I know this has been hard for the American people, but I think we've achieved something great for them, is his kind of conclusion of this all. We think we got something great for you. I know you've suffered a lot, but isn't this in the end what we all wanted? And I think what all Americans are saying is we never wanted these wars. We don't want any of them. Stop the genocide in Gaza. Stop the genocide in Lebanon. Stop these catastrophic and unlawful wars. Just shut them down and focus on the suffering of the American people and help the American people who aren't able to live right now under these conditions in the United States. Here's what JD Vance said. You can listen to it for yourself. Let's play it.
Bargain, but this is just a great thing for the American people. I know that they've suffered from high gas prices. The president has certainly been very concerned about that fact. But what we're going to be able to do is drive down the cost of energy, not just now, but for the long term, and create a real engine of prosperity in the Middle East where Americans benefit from those lower energy prices, lower gas prices, and we don't have the same risk of chaos that we've had for the last generation. That's big, big wins for the American people. I know that this has been a hard time for a lot of Americans, but we've achieved something great for them.
So there you have it. You know, you have the neocons after Vance, the Mossad after Vance, and I think there's going to be a real big push, obviously, amongst the war hawks, Netanyahu, others, to derail this thing and to try to oust JD Vance. I think that's what we need to pay attention to. I mean, I think they're going to make a concerted effort to try to push JD Vance out. What do you think? Hit subscribe. Let's get to 7 million. And thanks everybody for watching.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.